What's up, guys? Code Doug here, and we're back to break down an incredible hand that happened over on High Stakes Poker at Poker Go. On that note, let's go ahead and jump into the action.
8-6 offsuit for Brandon.
I'm very frustrated.
32.
Make it whatever you want.
I meant to make it 4, but I dropped one.
String bet. I'm sorry. I can't allow this.
You oppose.
I can't allow this at my table.
This is definitely your table too.
Gottlieb makes it 15,000 with ace queen offsuit.
Oh wow.
We have no defense. It is his table.
Kulik is in there,
yeah.
AJ.
Why not? 6-5 of hearts.
You're gonna call fold a raise.
Look at this.
Down solves. 50,000. King, queen of spades.
And an immediate kind of glance over from Gottlieb, naturally trying to figure out what's going on.
Something's brewing here, no doubt.
Ace queen off. It's one of those hands. It's very good. Not great. In great shape now, though.
Gottlieb calls.
I got news for you, AJ. I don't think Kulik's going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well,
Not from what we've seen, that's for sure.
I think it's wrong.
Come on. Yeah, exactly. Let's play some poker.
We got a poker game.
Our hand begins at 400, 800 with a $1,600 straddle, so we are certainly playing some high stakes poker, which does make sense because that is the name of the show. If you're not familiar with high stakes poker, it is one of poker's all-time best shows. In fact, so many legendary moments and hands happened on this show, and oftentimes it gets some of poker's biggest stars.
No, this is just a fold.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
not a fold. Are
the
you
hell?
crazy
Yes,
right
I-
now?
Unbelievable.
Phil, can I see your 8?
Shameless self-plug. If you would like to check out full episodes or the other content over on Poker Go, you can do so. I'll put some links in the description below. All right, so back to this hand. So the action begins 400, 800, 1600, and Brandon Steven looks down at 8-6 offsuit on the button. I really just prefer letting this go. This is a bit too loose to be opening. That said, it's possible that he realizes that the blinds are maybe some recreational poker players that he would like to play pots with. So I don't hate this open, but I probably would prefer just to let it go. Now Gottlieb looks down at ace queen here in the small blind and has a decision to make. Generally speaking, in the smallest blind of a 3-blind game, you can make your life easy and never play any calls. In fact, just 3-betting or folding is a totally reasonable idea. I think that the best price to make this is somewhere in the $14,000 to $18,000 range, which Gottlieb does and makes it $15,000. This seems like a very nice play. Over to Kulik now with 6-5 of hearts. This is kind of interesting because the players are really deep, and one thing that I found is that hands like particularly 7-6 suited and hands like 6-5 suited actually don't mind just calling here some of the time. That said, I would probably just recommend when you want to play in this spot, just come in for a raise and either 4-bet or fold. While theoretically there will be some flats that exist in this situation, it's very hard to navigate these spots correctly, and because your range is so specific and kind of obvious, I'd prefer to just 4-bet or fold here, keep your range together, protect yourself with your strong hands like aces and kings, and it'll make your life a little bit easier. That said, in position, very deep suited connector, I can totally see where Kulik is coming from, and he does decide to make the call. Over to Gonsalves now in the straddle. So we've had some serious action here so far this hand. We look down at king, queen suited, and he decides to 4-bet to $50,000. I think generally speaking, king, queen suited, when you're facing a 3-bet, it's going to be a hand that you probably do a little bit of folding and some re-raising. I do like the idea of coming in for a re-raise here, trying to isolate the cold call pre-flop from Kulik, or also to put Gottlieb in a really tough spot when he has a hand, frankly, like ace queen. I like this play from Gonsalves. I'd probably make it a little bit smaller. 40,000 probably gets the job done all the same. I know some cold 4-betting spots, people use very small sizes, so this is probably just a touch on the big side, particularly when you consider that they are not all that deep relative to some of the other players at the table. Steven gets out of the way now and is back over to Gottlieb with ace queen. And I think in this situation with ace queen, you just end up folding. Yeah, sometimes you're going to get owned by someone making a move with ace 5 suited or king queen suited or maybe even ace jack. But the reality is that your hand is not going to be played particularly well. when you're beat, you're going to be fairly dominated, and you do not have good playability post-flop because you are not suited. I think with ace-queen suited, I definitely call here. I think with hands like suited broadways, with some middling pairs, some stuff like that, all seems well and good. But with the ace-queen off, I think I'm just going to let this one go. He does decide to make the call. And now over to Kulik with 6-5 of hearts. And I'm pretty sure you're actually just supposed to call here because the reality is your hand plays pretty nicely three-way. Oftentimes when you improve to hands that beat high pairs, you're going to end up finding yourself with some action. It'll give you some nice hands you can bluff with in some later spots. So I actually really do like calling here now with 6-5 of hearts, which he does decide to do. And let's take a flop three-way.
And an open ender for Kulik.
Delightful to see a draw to the stone nuts. 155 out there, albeit 6 high for Marcus. Telling the story pre certainly has some backdoor possibilities. Does he want to stab AJ?
Checks here. We'll go to the turn.
The flop comes Jack 4-3 rainbow. So both Gottlieb and Gonsalves missed this flop with their overcards. And Kulik has 6 high, but he does have a draw to the nuts on both sides on a rainbow board. So he has a very strong hand here, despite the fact that he can't beat almost any hands at this exact given moment. The action checks over to Gonsalves here in the straddle, and he has to decide whether he wants to fire on the flop or not. I can see some pretty good merit both ways. I will say when you cold 4-bet, typically you're going to see bet the flop quite frequently, with the idea being you have so many strong hands here. Obviously, he will have aces, kings, queens, jacks here basically all of the time. And even though hands like ace, king, and ace, queen whiffed, you do also need to have some bluffs. Not to mention hands like ace 5 suited has a gutter, ace 4 suited hit a pair. So this is a very good board for the 4-betting player. I think I would probably go ahead and fire all my hands here, even three-way, but I don't mind the idea of occasionally working in some checks. The thing is, on this board, if you have a hand like kings, you really do effectively have the nuts. The only hand that really kind of makes sense to lose to is pocket jacks. Maybe if your opponent decided to call twice with hands like 4s or 3s, but those are going to be pretty unlikely. So in this situation, you're going to bet quite often in Gonsalves' shoes. And I don't hate the idea of some give-ups, but I probably would be looking to get pretty aggressive. That said, this hand can play pretty nicely when you check. You can turn top pair on a king or a queen. You can turn open ender on a 10. You have a gutter on an ace or a 9. You have a flush draw on a spade. So I can see some logic for checking, trying to realize some of your equity, and then maybe looking to bluff on later streets. Gonsalves does end up going for the check, and we take a turn, and oh boy, is this quite the turn.
We'll go to the turn. Queen of clubs. Rough card for Marcus Gonsalves. Gottlieb is putting something together here. Bet 65 dimes.
And how does Kulik want to respond to this?
Reaching pretty quick. All right, he calls.
And for Gonsalves, we can't really get away here. Maybe, but the Kulik factor makes it, you know, he's concerned he's beat, but likely isn't beat via Kulik.
The turn comes the queen of clubs, and all hell is about to break loose. Starting here with Gottlieb with ace queen. He has to think about what he wants to do in this situation, and I do lean towards a bet. While it's possible that Gonsalves trapped the flop a bit with a hand like pocket jacks or aces, I'm not too concerned about many of those hands because I think they mainly would just bet the flop. So when I have ace queen, I have a very strong hand. It's unlikely I'm behind, and there are certainly a bunch of hands that might want to call, particularly turn draws like ace king or king 10 suited or 10-9 suited or clubs. There are many hands we can imagine that might call him, particularly three-way. Because of this, I do like to bet, and I think I like a bet about 1/3 pot, which he decides to go for. I think this is a really nice bet here from Gottlieb with his ace queen. Now over to Kulik. This is starting to get kind of tough. So there's a few things that are going at the same time here. The first is there are a lot of draws in this spot. So there are certainly a lot of hands that if you did decide to raise here, you could potentially get Gottlieb off of. If Kulik jams here, he's going to get folds from ace king, king 10 suited, 10 suited, all these kinds of hands that we mentioned before. However, you are in position, so I don't mind the idea of just calling and taking a river. This is one of those spots where you have to do something other than fold. I can see logic for either action. I probably maybe lean call, but would do some jamming because I unblock a bunch of the bluffs. Regardless, you've got an open ender. It's the nuts on both sides. You're going to have to at least put in 65,000 into this pot that has already ballooned to $220,000. Kulik does decide to make the call here on the turn, and this is where the hand goes totally off the rails.
How about this?
Okay, we have... Okay. This speaks for itself.
Almost a half a mil in the middle.
$131, 4 more.
Oh, I showed a set of twos and now everyone's just bullying me around.
He's worried Marcus flopped 3 jacks. Oh, and he does let it go.
Oh, boy. Okay, well.
So it's 131.
Does Kulik want to hunt that deuce or 7, AJ? I think he might.
With all that,
Look at this guy.
My wife.
with all that dough in front of him, why not? Take a shot.
Why couldn't I have folded on a 50?
And by the way, Gottlieb isn't going to be ecstatic when he sees, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right,
All
he's
right,
hunting him down.
What do you got, Marcus?
Said jacks, I'm assuming. No. Folded ace queen.
Figured you might fold this.
Damn it.
Gonsalves decides it's time to go all in here with his top pair. And I have to say, I am not a very big fan of this. I think in this situation, when you go all in, you should be stronger or weaker. What do I mean by that? You should either have some kind of hand that is a draw, maybe a hand like ace 5 of clubs, or a hand like ace king of clubs, or even a hand like just ace king simply by itself. Or you should be, or maybe those are the weaker hands, or maybe you should have a strong hand like aces that trap the flop, or jacks that wants to stack a queen, or maybe queen jack suited that check the flop. I think you need to be stronger or weaker here. This hand feels too middling. And think about this. If you jam king queen, what worse hands can you get called by? Well, of course, if someone has a draw that's good enough, they'll call your jam. But the point is, I don't think you end up being very efficient with jamming this hand. Because of that, I would like to just call and play the river, but I can also understand wanting to knock out some equity from players that might be drawing. With this in mind, Gonsalves decides to go all in, risking it all. And the action now back over to Gottlieb. Gottlieb decides to make an epically gigantic fold here with ace queen. I mean, this is an insane fold. He's practically giving away money, which reminds me of my challenge over on Club WPT Gold. That's right, I'm giving away $100,000. There will be one $10,000 winner, and the rest of the money will be split evenly with everyone who purchases gold coins using code Doug over on Club WPT Gold. But I'm not just giving away the money in the giveaway, I'm also giving it away at the tables where I am down over $30,000 in my challenge. I'm really proving these games are beatable, as well as honing in on my poker skills. This is definitely going to make people want to head down to Upswing Poker for our cash game course sale. People are going to want to learn from me when they see these results. Where was I? But in all seriousness, I think if you bet ace queen on the turn, you just got to call here. Look, I wouldn't expect to be up against king queen, sure. However, it's not out of the realm of impossibility. Your opponent has a queen. You also could be chopping. He could have ace queen as well. And then there are a slew of draws that either player can have here. Not to mention, you're almost certainly going to be ahead of Kulik when he calls the turn. So I think you just got to put the call in. I know it sucks, but this is a spot where you don't want to be seeing monsters in the closet. Once he gets out of the way, now it's a very weird spot for Kulik. I mean, look, like you're getting some pretty reasonable odds here to call all in. You're calling $130,000 into a pot that will be $613,000. So you need right around 22% equity. I do think that it's a fold because you have 8 outs twice, or sorry, 8 outs once. So essentially you have about 16% equity here, generally speaking. So I think you're going to have to just fold here. You want to call with some stronger draws that have a little bit more equity against your opponent's range, but it's going to be a very marginal fold versus call situation. I just simply don't think you're getting the odds. That said, my man Kulik has done every single thing he can to get here with his straight draw, and he's not about to let that go. We're going to see this hand out to the finish, and it's a doozy.
Once or twice, do you know?
I don't think they said yet. Did they say it?
I don't think so, but I mean, and it is the deuce, my word.
I feel a little better.
Feels good to win the first one.
It feels really good to win the first one.
Oh my, can he do it again? AJ, obviously they're running it twice.
Okay.
Just smooth calling the king queen 65.
Marcus is frozen in time and space right now.
Oh my God!
Goodness, it is the 7, my word.
Too good.
Heavens to Betsy.
You got to go home at that point. He's got to go home.
I feel like low key in the background here, Gottlieb is quite happy about the events because he made a terrible fold and he would have gotten stacked if he called. So it's always nice when doing the wrong thing ends up with the right result. That's going to be it for me. I'm doing a podcast with Alan Keating today at 1 p.m. Central Time, and then I'm streaming afterwards. So make sure to stay here on the channel for all of the exciting content we've got coming up. I'll see you there.